Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We're going to give everyone just a few more minutes. Folks are still logging on, so just hang tight. All right, I say we get started here. So good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, The Next Generation Dossier, Make the Switch to AMCS Fleet Maintenance. My name is Lisa Viscuso and I am the Product Marketing Manager for Transport and Logistics for North America, and today I will be your moderator. We know that if you're joining us, you are currently a classic Dossier 6 user, and we are excited to show you the benefits of AMCS Fleet Maintenance and allow you to hear not only from our internal experts, but also from one of our customers from Worldwide Flight Services. John, if you can head to the next slide, please. So a few housekeeping rules before we get started. Unfortunately, the tech gods are not in our favor today, and the webinar platform that we're using is having some technical difficulties, and it's not really allowing us to show our beautiful faces on camera. So that is the reason why cameras appear to be off today. So we do apologize for that. But the phone lines are muted, and this is to eliminate any background noise. We know that you will have questions throughout the session, so please feel free to log those questions in the chat box. And once we get through the presentation portion of today's session, we will facilitate a full Q&A. I know we get this question a lot, so we do want to let you know that this session will be recorded, and we will be sure to share it to your email inboxes for future viewing. Next slide, please. So at this time, I do want to introduce to you our presenters for today. First up, we have Kelly Terry. He is the Director of GSC Strategy and Sourcing at Worldwide Flight Services, where he leads strategic maintenance efforts for the ground service equipment fleet. He has over 9 years of hands-on and leadership experience, including roles at Bond Equipment, Pinnacle Logistics, and Worldwide Flight. A fun fact about Kelly, he plans to climb El Capitan before he turns 40. So that's awesome, Kelly. I fully support that. Next, we have John Davis. He is head of delivery for fleet maintenance. He has worked in fleet maintenance since 1983 and joined the original Dossier systems in 2005. He leads the fleet management team at AMCS, helping customers implement best practices and optimize AMCS fleet maintenance, while also providing real-world user insights to the product development team. And a quick fun fact about John, he has worked on the bus that was in the movie Forrest Gump. And lastly, we have Victor Escudero, the Director of Business Development and Regional Account Manager. He brings over 31 years of experience in sales, consulting, and process improvements. He's fluent in Spanish and English. He has led multinational teams and territories, leveraging deep dossier expertise and a proven track record in strategic growth, customer service, and cross cultural engagement. Victor's fun fact is that he has a fleet of his own at home, a motorcycle fleet. And I can guarantee you that Victor is doing his preventive maintenance on that fleet. Next slide, John. A quick overview of our agenda. Victor's going to kick it off with an overview of classic dossier. Then we're going to hold a full Q&A session with Kelly, Victor, and John, so we can hear firsthand Kelly's experiences with AMCS Fleet Maintenance. John is also going to be showing us a live view of the solution during that section. And then Kelly is going to talk through his recommendations on the things to consider before making the switch. And then lastly, we will hold that full Q&A. So real quick before I do kick it off to Victor, I just want to mention one quick thing about the lingo for today. When you hear us say Dossier 6, that is the classic platform. That is what you are using now. And AMCS Fleet Maintenance is the newest solution. That is the next generation of fleet maintenance that you're going to learn about today. You may have historically heard it as 7, or if we slip and call it 7 or Dossier 7, that is what we mean when we say AMCS Fleet Maintenance. So hopefully that provides a little bit of clarity. So once again, thanks everybody for joining, and I'm going to officially kick it over to you, Victor.
Thank you, Lisa, and good morning to all of our Dossier family here on the phone. Many of you on the call, we have interacted in the past, so hello to you all, and hello to all the new participants that we have not had an opportunity to directly interact. Thank you for that fun fact, Lisa. Just don't ask me to share my PM compliance report with you on not just the bikes, but the overall cars. I am a culprit of the same pains that faces all of our Dossier family, whether from work or at home. But I guess from we're still, one of the messages or underlying messages is we're still the same team. So as you all know, we did get acquired by the AMCS group, back at the end of 2021. But the vast majority of the people that you have come to know, rely upon, and bring your questions to, mostly everybody is still in place and doing what we have been doing for the past 45 plus years. So, support team, John's team, the FMCs, everybody in place, development, most of the team is in place. I guess the team where I'm at in the commercial team is maybe the one that has suffered some of the most changes. But then again, the team that is there for you, to handhold you, to guide you, to help you, everybody is still in place. So that is a great, testament to the quality of the team and the strength of the team. We continue to serve, a vast majority of industries, from ranging from aviation to waste recycling, people transport, food and beverage, our private fleets, utilities and construction, pretty much anyone that today has a pool of equipment and or a fleet, depending on your terminology, and or fixed assets. But at the end of the day, if you have something that is in need of PM tracking, inspection tracking, and for you to have records about what has been done, it's something that we can help with. So we continue to be industry vertical independent, and we work with anyone and anybody that has equipment or assets that are in need of maintenance tracking. We continue to grow. So we've pushed over the 1 million managed assets within our Dossier solutions and AMCS Fleet Maintenance. And we're pushing over the 20,000 active users worldwide. So it's again great testament to to the capabilities and the continued growth that we are experiencing with the Dossier and AMCS Fleet Maintenance solution. So for many of you that are on this call, and were participants of the users forum, you knew that we've always welcomed all of your feedback, ideas, and suggestions. Not that every one of those inputs is acted upon, but they have always been very valuable. And now, as we look at the transition and moving into the next generation, all I can say is that you've talked and we've listened. So one of the things that we've heard the most was around the daily reminder, was about access to data. Can we move away from custom reports? When are you all gonna fully support the mobile environment? So, like I said, we've heard, we've listened, acted upon those that got the most pings, and also what the industry and just technology was demanding. So, out of all that feedback, we come into our four pillars of strength within the AMCS fleet maintenance solution. And one of them is, and a lot of it is partly in order, mobility. Now all of us in our daily lives, who's not doing something on their devices, whether it's a phone, whether it's a tablet. So mobility was at the forefront of putting the system in people's hands. No matter the device, no matter where you are, we wanted everyone to be able to do all of their functions in the system. So mobility. So essentially, remember, anywhere, anytime, any device, you will be able to perform your duties within the system. GLN accounting. How many times did we hear the question, hey, will it work with our accounting program? Will it integrate with that financial solution? How do we get them to tie into each other? And as many of you will recognize, this was something that was not a requirement, back in the old days. But now it is, and it's at the forefront. So the GLN accounting capability of the AMCS fleet maintenance solution, will be obviously addressing that, but do know that the system is a fully ledgered solution. So it has been built and purposely built to sit at the right-hand side of the financial solution. Smart inspections. Again, the question, hey, when are you all going to have your own EDVIR solution? We listened. So now Dossier has its own EDVIR module. That the biggest difference, it's fully DOT compliant, full closed loop, but the biggest difference is that in Dossier, it's a module. If enabled, it's available to all of your managed assets within the system, and not only those that have a telematic solution on it. So one, smart inspections, full closed DOT compliant loop, available to all your assets. And then the other prevailing question, can I have access to my data? Unrestricted access to my data. I don't want custom reports. I don't need custom conduits. I don't need custom. Yes, I'm mentioning the word custom. Completely away from that. How do I have unrestricted access to my data? And that is then the fourth pillar. Access to data so that you can take your data, put in, take out, and do with the data as you please. So that ability, open, unrestricted ability of Dossier 7, AMCS Fleet Maintenance, is there for you to leverage. And it's one of the things that Kelly will be hitting on as he talks about his own experience. So, segue.
Thank you, Victor. So I do want to officially welcome and introduce Kelly Terry into the mix here for our Q&A portion. As a reminder, this is the section where you're going to learn probably the most about AMCS fleet maintenance. So Victor, I'm going to turn it back over to you to guide us through those questions.
Very good. Thank you, Lisa. So, and thank you so much, Kelly, for your continued support of your former Dossier and now AMCS family. So as we start with this, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Worldwide Flight Services?
Yeah, thanks, Victor. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll start with kind of Worldwide Flight Services, what we do, and then kind of talk about my role a little bit. So we are a aircraft ground handling company. We load and unload, freight from aircraft all over the U.S. And more broadly all over the world. So as a part of that, we have 18,000, a little bit over 18,000 pieces of equipment in the country at various different airports. And so my role at Worldwide is to look for ways to make the maintenance and tracking of that equipment more efficient. I've been in this role for 3.5 years now. I'm looking at maintenance software, telematics, that kind of thing. And about 3 years ago, we were in need. We were using Dossier 6, and we were in need of a more powerful system. We obviously have a very complex organization, complex operation. So yeah, that's what I do at Worldwide Flight Services.
Thank you, Kelly. And I guess for those that it may not be 100% clear, next time you board a plane and you're looking outside the window and you see all that ground equipment running out there, think of Kelly. Right, Kelly?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have said, yeah. I mean, we have everything from forklifts to everything you see at the airport, baggage tugs, container loaders, dollies, all of that equipment is ours. So
Yeah, but don't call Kelly if your bags don't make it to where they're supposed to go. That's not part of his responsibility.
yeah, thank you.
Kelly, yeah, I'm gonna save you from some phone calls. Kelly, so you made the transition to AMCS Fleet Maintenance from Dossier 6. What can you tell us about the experience and what prompted you to and the organization to make the conversion?
Yeah, so as I said, I mean, the complexity of our operation was kind of thing number one. So with all this equipment running around, and I'm just going to take one airport as an example, but an airport like DFW, Dallas Fort Worth International, that airport's the size of the island of Manhattan, and we have equipment all over it. So when there's a problem with our equipment, we need a way to easily report it, and that needs to be done in sort of the easiest way possible to the operator. You don't we didn't want a situation where somebody would have to go to like a clunky website or send an email or anything like that. We needed a way to do it via some kind of app. So that was a big one. The ability to go paperless is another one. So the interactive checklists that fleet maintenance has, obviously the fact that the mechanics can do everything on a tablet, as Victor touched on earlier with mobile. But all that stuff, we needed that to happen easily. And then also the data, the API. So as a large organization, different people constantly need information. So we wanted the ability to share data really, really easily. We didn't want to have to generate a bunch of reports, auto email them, things like that. We wanted to transition from sort of sending people information to on demand. Hey, I need a report. I need to know something about a piece of equipment. You can just go get it yourself. You don't have to, reach out to somebody at corporate and ask them. And overall, the experience transitioning, it's a large task to, change management in any organization is, can be difficult, but the way that fleet maintenance makes the data accessible, the training, the ease of use for mechanics, it was actually, it's been a very, pretty seamless transition.
Awesome. So you touched on a couple of things. When and obviously you did you and the organization did your due diligence, but at the end of the day, when converting from six to AMCS Fleet Maintenance, sorry, Lisa, how what was the compelling when you were evaluating the conversion? What were some of the compelling things that made you all say this is the right fit? We want to continue. We're going to undergo this entire conversion activity. What was it that made you all decide that AMCS Fleet Maintenance Dossier 7 was the right fit?
Yeah, so there were three kind of main things. The first one was the work requests and the fact that those work requests can be put in, by an operator through a mobile device anywhere you've got cell phone coverage or Wi-Fi, you can do it. And that's a huge thing for us. Like I said, I mean, DFW is a huge airport, but generally speaking, all of them are large. A huge geographic area to have to cover, and so the fact that somebody's just able to go in on their phone, hey, I have a problem with bag tug 1234. That was that was fantastic. That and then the ability, like I said, the ability to go paperless. So, a mechanic in our implementation, all of our technicians they do not use paper. They are using a tablet to enter all their maintenance activity. That saves us a bunch of time. Typically you spend about an hour at the end of each day doing paperwork. For us, it's all done, kind of at the moment of repair. So we have more up to date information. And the third thing, like I said, was the API, just the ability to get all the data out of the system, in whatever way we want. That's the most important thing. We're in a very unique industry. Our equipment's pretty unique, and so to be able to just get everything out and customize our reporting the way we want it to be, it's helped us adapt to changing regulations and things like that in a very, very easy way.
Good. Thank you. So, you know, I think going back to one of the things that I mentioned as in terms of the pillars of strength, but also, our our family's request on access to data. Um, you know, I'm hearing from you that this has been very impactful. Um, does this help you to lessen the burden of everyday maintenance reporting?
Absolutely. Our administrative time has gone down significantly because like I said, it's now it's on demand reporting. So we use Power BI in my organization. So, we create our Power BI reports, and then it's kind of set it and forget it. We publish it, and then anybody can, and it refreshes automatically with new data from D7, or sorry, from Fleet Maintenance. And so people are just able to go get it when they need it. They don't have to ask me or anybody on my team, hey, can I have this report? Can you tell me about this asset? They're just able to go get it. They're just able to go grab it whenever they need it. And so that just it saves administrative time, on my team's end and on the person that needs the information's end. Especially during things like compliance audits. Auditors can ask for information at the drop of a hat, and they don't want to wait for you to go ask somebody for the information. So our teams are able to just grab it when they need it.
Okay,
That's
Kelly.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
So I thought what I would do is show you the first thing that Kelly talked about, and that is the simplicity of the work request. And we'll go through some of those items, and we'll come back to Kelly. But I think if you could see it, so that get a little bit back and forth here to see just what were some of the decision makers. So this would be the mobile, and you would simply click on there's an icon right here for a work request. And you simply click on that. You can have pre-built ones too. So if you have things that are repetitive that you do over and over and over that are common ones, you can build those out so that it's just a couple taps and they're done. But all you would do here is you could say whatever the problem might be, headlight out. You'll notice the beauty of it is it can utilize the translate, the right within for your voice recognition without having to do anything special, right? And if you wanted to fill in what was the reason, you can put that in too. But really what I just did is I'm done. It was just those two things that I had to do. I had the asset, and you could upload up to 6 photos with each work request that you might have, because sometimes they're very valuable in trying to figure out what's going on. And that was it. It's all I had to do to create a work request. We'll, assuming we have a little bit of time later, we'll go through our smart inspection. It works very much the same type of way, but I wanted to give you that example first. So,
Thank you, John.
yes. Go
Was there
back
anything
to,
that you wanted to add
well,
to the mobile?
yeah, so I think it might be a good time to talk a little bit about the API if it's because Kelly's given his what it's doing for him, and then he can certainly add some more information. But to give you an idea of what we're talking about, I think that would be important. And then Kelly can certainly his company uses I would say 75, maybe 80% of all the customers that are on fleet maintenance utilize our API in one way or the other. And that was our goal, right? Our goal was to not have to write custom reports. We haven't had to write a single custom report in over 5 years. That's impressive, right? Because when we don't have to write custom reports and take development away from the core, we can be innovative. We can create new features, new functions, and keep our team focused on something. The other thing is it saves you money. As a customer, you don't have to pay for us to maintain those reports from year to year, because now anything that you want, as Kelly was stating, Power BI, it's a powerful tool. You don't even have to train people how to use fleet maintenance. You just train them how to do Power BI. We do the exact same thing in our company, right? We use NetSuite as our accounting and project management system, but all of our reporting and dashboards are right there in Power BI. Not that they can't be done in the NetSuite base, it's just that you can mix in pieces of information from other systems in Power BI. So you can pull what you want from, I need this piece of information from, um, from one source. Maybe I need, in Kelly's example, maybe I need to know how many tugs do I need at this station. Maybe I need to know in the waste and recycling, how many front loaders do I need on this day? Well, we're not going to normally have that information in fleet maintenance, but you're certainly going to have it in some system. Well, you can bring those two pieces of information together and really leverage that. And to show you how simple this is, and this is the beauty of it. We made the interface, everything that you'll see in this application, whether it be in a browser or a mobile app, tablet, it all utilizes our API. The whole entire system goes through the API, whether it's through our interfaces or through some other methodology you want to use. Therefore, we ensure that it's 100%. That's a very unique design. Our classic product, Dossier 6, even Dossier 5, both had an API, but it only exposed stuff that our developers needed to integrate with other products. This is a completely new, we built this from the ground up. And so to show you how it's right here in the documentation, and it shows every single thing that we do. The calls are right here, and we break them up by whatever the whatever the area, the definition we want, where it be assets or parts or what have you. All of it's there. That's great. And you say, okay, well, I know how to make those calls and do all that. The whole training process for this, and we just do it as part of the implementation, takes about an hour to show you how to really get, it's all in the help, but to fast track you to get you up and running quickly, we only take about an hour with your folks, and you can pretty much run from there. But here's another neat part about it. So you're saying, okay, they got thousands and thousands of calls. Where do I go look? Well, sometimes I don't remember what we do, and I say, well, how do I figure this out? So when we open this asset card, for instance, it's making a call, right? It's making a call that says, um, give me this information that I just asked for. Well, built in to uh, like Chrome or Edge or any of them, there's the ability to see what you've done. And here's the exact call that we just made right here. So it serves as like a cheat. We don't hide it. Some applications hide the way that they make the calls, and obviously you can get it through through different tools. But we want you to be able to get to this data. We want you to be able to know what calls to make. So anything that we do on screen, you've got those calls easily accessible, and you can then leverage and do whatever you wish, whether it's pulling data, changing data, adding data. Anything that you can do in the interface, you can do via the API. So, Victor, I'll go back to you. And
John, just before you leave the demo, there's a couple of things that I want to add to this, and I go back to you asked, we listened, and one of them I had up there was a daily reminder. So one of the biggest questions we got around daily reminder was, hey, how can I break it up into different screens? I don't want to see everything in just one screen. Or hey, I just do inventory. I just do parts. I don't need to see PMs. I don't need to see work pending. So the question was, how can we break up the daily reminder? And what you've seen from what John has been doing, it's the workspaces, where now you as an individual user, you can set up any and all workspaces that you need, as many of them, that show you different sets of data. So depending upon your role or just what do you want to see up there, it's a matter of you just dropping the widgets and the cards into various workspaces that then show you specific data to what you want to home in. So, this was a major change in terms of the ability for you to see what you wanted to see, and you get to decide what's up on those workspace screens.
Yep.
So, and I just want to make a note on your discussion around the API, because to potentially many on the call, I don't want to assume anything. What is the API, and ultimately what you showed may not fully get the full grasp of it. And I like to make an analogy in terms of the API, and when the API, as John showed it, it's like you just popping up the hood, or moving the cab over, and you have access to the engine is right there, engine equating to the database, all the data is right there, you're looking at it. And where we engage as part of the training that John said is, you're looking at the engine, and you might turn around and ask John, is like, John, where's spark plug number 3? And John's gonna say it's right there. Okay, then you can go grab the spark plug. Where's the water pump? Oh, it's right there. Okay, you go in and grab the water pump. So now you're getting data, but if you need to push data, it's like, hey, I have this water pump. Where does it go? Oh, it goes right there. Oh, you go in and put it in. So I like to make that mechanical analogy, because again, I don't want to assume that everybody on the call may understand the API and the calls, and what John showed, but it is to those in the IT world, or to those that know how to make that, it is as simple as those who know changing the water pump, putting oil, changing a spark plug. It becomes that easy for them. Kelly, you do both. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes. Yes. I mean, as far as the API, I mean, it's very easy to use. Also the fleet maintenance team, your FMC support, they also understand the API. So if you or someone on your team is the one actually building your reporting using the API, the documentation's there, and you've always got people you can reach out to ask them, if you're not sure. One thing that we do, and you touched on something, Victor, pushing data back in. So we do both. We pull data down out of the system, and we also push data back up. So we have automated adding assets to the system. So in 6, you go through and you kind of add one asset at a time. That's pretty tedious for somebody to do, and it introduces a lot of places for human error. So in fleet maintenance, we made the decision to just automate the uploading and updating of our assets. So we have somebody that gathers the information when we lease or purchase a piece of equipment. They put it into a template that we've created, and then we have a tool that we put it into, and it uploads it straight into D7. What's great about that is we can set our own validation rules on that data. So we can make sure that it, not just that it meets the kind of the minimum criteria that AMCS has set up, that's sort of generic to all implementations and all customers, but we also have our own logic that we want applied to our data. So, for example, we know that a certain make and model combination is like the only valid option for a certain type of equipment. So we have all those checks in place, so we ensure that, we'll sort of touch on this later, but we ensure that good data flows into our system. And then we also pull it down. So we download the entire Dossier database, the entire fleet maintenance database every single day, 4 times a day. Every single table, every single field. And the reason that we do that is, first of all, it's not complicated to do. It does not take very much time. Like I described, we have 18,000 pieces of equipment in fleet maintenance. We have about 90,000 work orders, about 90,000 work requests in the system right now, and it takes 15 minutes to get all of that from fleet maintenance server into our data warehouse. We also don't know what the future holds in terms of what reports we may or may not need. So we don't want to limit ourselves to we've only brought down certain fields, we just take everything. So that lets us do a lot more with it. One thing that has come out of this is in D6, they're called work pending or work pendings. In D7 or in fleet maintenance, they're called work requests. And so that description, that work request description or the work pending description, we have a project right now to use AI to be able to determine whether or not our repair and what our mechanics said they did were the same thing. And that's something that's only possible because we're able to get all that information out.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Um, so just I guess on the subject of the last on API and and your day-to-day activities, what do you think it's the feature that is most impactful on your day-to-day?
It's good. It's our asset history and preventative maintenance. So we have a lot of custom reporting built around our asset history, interactive reports in Power BI that people are able to go to. We have a tool that we've specifically set up for a technician that they are able to type in. They're able to type in an asset number, and they can see every part, every repair, everything that's ever been done to that piece of equipment. And it's just the way we did it was, it was designed for somebody to just go on their phone and type it in and use it. And the other thing is preventative maintenance compliance. So what John's showing right now is the in fleet maintenance sort of view of PM compliance. Now, the API exposes this exact data that's used to build this graph, and we take that and we put it into our own our Power BI implementation, and we have certain filters, thresholds, things like that on the data, and it allows us to monitor in real time our PM on time performance. That's huge for us. We're in a very regulated industry. We need to make sure that our PMs are getting done on time. And so we're able to track in real time our compliance rates. We can see what assets were done late. We can even see how many times over the life of an asset we've done a PM late on that piece of equipment. We can also see the relationship between it's sort of known in the industry, the better PMs you do, the more you do, the less breakdowns you should have. And it's one of those things that we all say it, but it can be difficult to prove if you don't have the data. And we actually have a report that shows us in real time the relationship between preventative maintenance and actual breakdowns, and we make changes to our PM policies and intervals to help to drive that relationship in the direction we want it. So those are the two main things for us.
But to elaborate on something here, one of the things when Victor said you spoke and we listened, so we've really enhanced the PM is a very strong feature in Dossier 654 for all the years, right? It's the base part of what we do. But I'll just give you a quick example. It's a little bit of a busy screen, but it's on purpose to give you the examples what you can do. And all of the way that you're used to doing intervals, right? All that still exists. But here's what we've added. This is the pieces that we've added for you. So now you've got a due period. So in D6 and everything before, if it was due at 10,000 miles and you did it at 9999, you did it early. If you did it at 10,001, you did it late. It was an absolute. You got a warning period, and you got it would tell you that it's due, but it in the compliance it would actually show it done early or done late. Now you can actually set a due period. So in this example of a 10,000 mile PM, I can set it due for 500 miles. So anytime within that 500 miles, we did it on time. That's great. We can also set up an additional notification period. So tell you it's coming due. In my example here, 1,000 miles, which is new, right? We've always had to do, but that, like I said, nobody's going to do it exactly right on time. So it would give you a little bit of a misleading information as long as you set your parameters correct in your PM compliance reporting, you were okay. But it didn't have this feature, and it's really a great. That's the reality of what you have. So when is it due? And then you have an overdue period, and you have a critical. So, for instance, say you're, the managers, like, what Kelly's folks are looking at, everything is done in the due, maybe even overdue. That's okay because you're within your compliance that you might have to comply with. As a manager or a regional manager, something you may only need to be worried about the critically overdue, right? That's what I need to know about. So we've got all of that information. We can do it on fixed schedules now. We can do flex date for people that have like buses, school buses, ground equipment that, like snow clearing equipment that we don't do it, things that are based on days. The annual has done a lot of good in the fact that, we can make something due at the end of the month, like DOT got a lot, like the state inspections got, where as long as you do it by the end of the month, from a year ago when it was due. So it won't show that it's overdue. So there's a lot of, if you did it in the middle of the month and then you don't get to it to like the 10th, to the very end of the month, that's still okay. So you've got options as to when it can be due. That's also a big improvement in what we did with the PM. So we've added a lot of new functionality around how we can set up PMs and things. The other piece that I wanted to show was the piece on Kelly was talking about how easy it is for the technicians to do it. So I spent 6 years of my life commuting. I live in Richmond. I commuted back and forth to Philadelphia every other week when we were building this product. It took many, many years. And one of the things that we did was, if those of you that have been around for a while as a customer knew that back in 2004, we had a mobile app and it worked. The problem was that the internet was slow then compared to today. And we really had to build it on the old symbol units, which were expensive and bulky. But it did what it was supposed to do. You could do work orders and you could do parts and you could do things like that, but it wasn't built for that. Our whole philosophy has changed. We're mobiles first because we want people to be able to collect the data easily and quickly. We've reduced the amount of data entry by 75% in a managed shop where the work is being assigned to somebody to do. Because as you see here on task, if I had logged in as a technician, it'll show my task. It'll show things that are assigned to me, right? So for instance, I could have this one item. It says, oh, okay, you got to do a headlight. And I merely, down here at the bottom, so that button stays right there for you to get to. And you tap in and now you're clocked in, just that simply. And it shows you could go to the work request that generated it. You can also see those repairs, right? Show me the last 10. You can see more. You can see whatever you want. Just sort of like the instant recall that we had in 6. It's called Instant Insights now. And you could click on a hyperlink, or you could click on the parts list and it'll show you what's been used. Very powerful to put that right there within the task. So if you think of it this way, think about Dossier 6 where you had to go to the repair order, you had to go to the parts and labor tab, and then you had to go within that parts and labor. You might recall that there's one of the grid items is task, right? It shows you the task status. We've bypassed all of that. Now the mechanics and technicians can go straight to the task and do their work. And that was our goal, is to eliminate. So you can do everything from the task that you've always been able to do as far as in that parts and labor, right? This is where you add parts. You can simply click on that. It'll filter the parts it's already used, or you can scan the part and it will bring up your barcode scanner and you can go from there. And it'll scan we do support all the labels now. Use UPC, the QR codes, the different types of UPC that's out there. All of that is now supported. So you no longer have to create the Dossier barcode labels. You can still do that if you want, but there's no requirement to do such. So
yeah, I can jump in for
yes, go ahead.
That's one one question that we had going into this, and I think I would have asked somebody about fleet maintenance was the device thing. We were nervous that how are we going to get devices into the hands of all our mechanics? How would we manage that? And what we've actually found, so one, we're saving a bunch of time, right? Because like you said, you can just hit that button, you can clock in, and when you go to another task, you hit the button and it clocks you out of the old one and into the new one. So it makes the mechanics workflow really, really simple. All they have to remember to do is hit the button. But the other thing is, with the devices, so we use iPads. We use just standard iPads. We get them from Amazon. They're about $300, $200. We have 250 technicians using the system. We've only broken, as shocking as this may be, we've only ever broken one iPad in the whole kind of history of using the system. And so it's actually a lot easier than you would think to get this stuff into the hands of the technicians. We have like a little check-in, check-out procedure that gets followed every day, and so we can account for the iPads. But very, very easy to do, not nearly as complicated as it kind of would first seem like. And it saves just so much time. That barcode scanning you were talking about, that's a huge thing for us. So we can scan we have barcodes on our equipment, so we can scan our equipment, and it'll pull up that asset. So the mobile thing is huge and big change from D6.
Good. Yeah, and one of the things, just as Kelly had mentioned, we run on both, whether it's iOS or Android. We support the current version and two back. To tell you how far that goes with Apple, an iPhone 7 is still on being updated on iOS version 16. So think about that. A device that that we support and Apple can support could be 7 years old. That's impressive. But we don't care. We can run on either one. It just seems as though the Apple devices, the amount of destruction that happens to them does seem to be less than I would have thought personally. But that's what we see, right? We see that they tend to last, and people do take care of them. So I'll hand it back to you, Victor. I think
So did and thank you for that insight, Kelly. I guess I just have one last question to all of this, and that is, and you alluded to this earlier, and a lot of times it's something that it may not be thought of in the forehand, but change management, from any system to another, and it's no different from 6 to 7 AMCS Fleet Maintenance. Sorry, Lisa. Change management will be required because you are essentially deploying a quote unquote new system. What was your change manage? How did you manage the change?
Yeah, I mean, it goes to what's kind of really what's on this slide, because there's some really we had to make a lot of considerations, because you're right. It is even if you're going from 6 to fleet maintenance, it's still a quote unquote new system. And the first thing was we thought about data integrity. You don't often get time to sit down and look at bad data that's gone into a system. You may have been running a system for 20 years, and every time you look at it, you're like, well, I know that this or that information's not 100% right, but it works. We're not going to mess with it. When you get the chance to upgrade or transition, that's the time to look at data quality and fix it. So that was a big one for us. We did a ton of planning. So we sat down, we got our whole management team. We also got representatives from our maintenance team, like in the field. We brought them all into a room. We said, here's what we're going to do. What's the best way to attack this? How do we do this? We planned it all out. We had it all mapped out before we ever started deploying it. So plan your structure up front. Make sure you kind of understand your different procedures you're going to use. Implement ongoing data hygiene. That's something we really had to think about, because it used to not matter if the assets were all correct, if we had all the right information. It really does now, because we're using this data, and the entire company is consuming this data. It's really important to make sure it stayed right. So automate as much as you can. Make sure that you're taking the human element as much out of it as you can. That kind of goes to custom specifications too, because that's one unique thing about fleet maintenance is every entity, so assets, work orders, work requests, all of them, you can add custom specifications. So you can add your own fields, and those become columns in your database. It's easy to get carried away because you have the freedom to add as many as you want. And we we sat down and we came up with like 75 custom specs. We realized that was too many. We pared it down to 53. But you know, you want to be able to manage it. You want to be able to keep up with it. So that was what we really had to. We had to be very diligent about that. And then we thought through our maintenance process. So when you make this transition, your technicians, your mechanics, they become the people putting data into the database. It's not going through an administrative person anymore. You know, it's not being written down on a piece of paper and passed into the system or being entered into the system. It's being done by them live as it happens. So they become a much larger part of your data reporting and just of your maintenance process in general. So, you know, we had to really just think through those processes. We changed a lot of stuff. We came up with essentially an entirely different workflow, and it works for us. And as far as implementing that, it's training, reinforcement, just making sure people understand the benefit that they're getting out. And as far as like implementing our reporting and all that, we had to take some time, sit down, think about what data we actually wanted, because you can download the entire database. As I said, we bring down the entire thing. So we really had to take some time and think about what's valuable to what people. So finance has their own reports. Our executive team gets their own reports. Our team has their own reports. Not all data is valuable, right? But all data can be valuable. And then we just made it part of our process, So we made our reporting. So our shop managers, they have their own custom report they see on Power BI. That's how they run their business. That's what they look at. They run their operation based off that report. And so there's a nice feedback loop. And to the point, I mean, I get questions sometimes. Hey, this number's not right. It doesn't look right. And that's when you sit down, take a deep dive, go through it with them. Hey, this is why your metric is X, Y, and Z, and it helps them improve their process. And to the last point on the reporting part of it, we started completely blank when it came to the reporting. We just literally sat in a room and said, okay, what do we want to know? And it was very helpful not to let what we had in D6 become a limitation to what we could have in fleet maintenance. The last kind of two things that we did, one, we utilized the AMCS team. So if you guys are on, you have an FMC, when you start this process, you'll be assigned an FMC. They'll go through this with you. They're there for advice. They do this all the time. This is their full-time job, is to deploy these systems. So we sat down. Ours was Rich Heritage. We sat down with him, picked his brain, asked him a bunch of questions, and made sure that we fully understood what we were getting into. Like, he's deployed this over and over and over again. This is our first time doing it, so let's make sure we get it. And working with Jim on the data integrity side, same thing. He does this all the time. Let's go through it with him, make sure that we're doing this the right way. And the last part of it is the timeline. So it's a complex system. Any maintenance organization is a complex system. Trying to change everything all at once quickly is kind of a recipe for disaster. You want to take your time, and that's different for every company. It took us multiple years to make the transition because we're just a very large organization. We had a lot of stuff we had to change, right? So for a smaller organization, it can go a little bit faster, but you got to do it at a timeline that works for your company and for your team, and test. We tested everything. We deployed this in a pilot site first, so smaller location. The people in that station were very familiar with D6, knew how maintenance software worked, were sort of our shining stars when it comes to using systems like this. Excuse me. So we tested it. We tested every single procedure. And even now, when we change a procedure, we deploy a new procedure, anything like that, we test it, we back it up with data, say, hey, this does work, and then we roll it out to the rest of our organization. So long-winded answer, but kind of considering these things, that's how we did it, and we've seen a lot of success from it. So.
And thank you, Cal. I mean, that is awesome. And just to let our participants know, while it's being rolled out within the U.S. at this moment in time, it is the goal of the global organization is that this system goes globally. So this everything that's being done on a day-to-day basis, it's setting it up for the rollout to continue to be easier and easier as worldwide flight services takes this solution around the world to all the different airports that they service. So thank you, Kelly. So, in conclusion, as we continue to move forward, also just for everybody to remember that we're not just Dossier anymore. We're not just fleet maintenance anymore. There's a lot of different areas where we are collaborating and working with our existing family and new family members. With the various solutions that now come to us. So yes, our wings have expanded. And for those here, or for those that you may know of, we have now sister or cousin solutions to Dossier for all those that are in the commodity bulk hauling area. Field services, which is for utilities, vertical and horizontal fixed asset utility maintenance. Vision AI for, this is primarily for our waste family members, for overfill, contamination. I mean, really, really powerful solution around managing what you're picking up from your own clients. For those in the aggregates or fuel hauling or oil hauling, specific solutions about fuel and concrete planning. These are solutions that sit on top of existing dispatch programs, to help optimize, those particular activities. Routing optimization is looking, at conditions, road, equipment availability, orders coming in. How do I optimize my assets in order to fulfill my customers' orders? So there's a lot more telematics. There's a lot more to us today than before. We continue to push forward with fleet maintenance, but please, ask the questions. If you have something that you're looking at within your operation, just pose the question. Can you guys help us with this? And if we can, we're more than willing to engage. And if we can't, we will say we can't. So thank you.
Thank you. That was fantastic. So we do have some questions, and we do have a couple more minutes here. So we want to try to run through as many of these as we can before the conclusion of the session. So let me just go ahead and start. Victor, I don't know if you want to take this one. What is the conversion upgrade process like? Oh, did we lose you, Victor?
Yeah, I think we did.
Oh, we did. Okay.
That's John. I can take care of that. So the conversion process is we use the fleet management consultants, the team you've known for, same team for a couple decades now, right? We lead you through getting the data. We clean up that data, as Kelly was saying, coming out of D6, because Dossier 6 and 5, 4, all those series didn't have the amount of controls and data integrity that we have now going forward, right? So it's the opportunity to go ahead and clean up that data from the assets to the parts to the vendors. We walk through that, we get your system set up, we get that data brought in, and then we do, depending if you're going to have an accounting set up, right? So for instance, we're going to integrate with, SAP or Sage or something of that nature, right? That it's very common. That's our goal, right? Is to be in the accounting setup so that, it's taking that data and it's creating a voucher to pay out of a system. That's our goal, right? And if that goes, we get all that set up, and then we do your operational setup, and then lastly, we do the go live with you. Typically, if you've got many facilities, as Kelly says, you want to bring them on at whatever pace works for you, depending on the size of those places. Our typical recommendation is no more than one every 2 weeks, because you're putting a lot of change in there and you want to be able to handle that change management. So, but we do customize the plan to every company, as far as what is going to work best for you.
Great. Thanks, John. Sounds like you answered another question in there about Sage as well, so appreciate that.
That's a very common
Um,
point for us. Yeah.
is licensing different from Classic 6?
It, um, Not really, except there's a couple of new features that we have, such as like smart inspection, our own EDVIR, and it's managed just as a module. So there's no per user; it's unlimited users on that. So you give it to every driver you have, and you just have to have the module, and it implements. There are some things that are now included, such as the like barcodes. Barcodes are built in. You no longer have to pay for that module, things of that nature. So, and there's some new features. The API, you only pay one fee for the API now, as the way we used to license it, you pay for every single connection that you've made. And I don't mean individual, but I mean like if you connected it to your accounting, that was one license, dispatch was another one. So, but generally it's licensed on the same methodology.
John, let me just jump in real quick. Also, a big change is in the named users. Dossier 7. I'm going to owe you a lot of pennies,
You,
Lisa. But
you really are, Victor.
hey, sorry, it's over 18 years. But so in fleet maintenance, the concept of the various types of users is gone. It's all just users. It's all named users, and now you control the granularity of what each user can do by setting up different groups within the system. So now it's 100% controlled by you. You set up the groups, you set up the permissions, and then you just put people on those groups, and they'll be able to do whatever you have allowed them to do. So that is also a significant change in the licensing.
Perfect. So that does actually bring us to the top of the hour, and we don't want to hold you all. There were a couple questions that we didn't get to, but we can follow up with you independently. No problem there. I do want to personally, on behalf of everybody here at AMCS, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Kelly, so much, Victor, John, all for presenting today. And when you are ready to make the switch, please reach out to Victor. We can leave his contact information on this slide for a couple minutes following this webinar. So thanks again, everybody, and we hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.